Hey folks, I'm Walter, and for those of you new to cruising, cruising is one of the most unique forms of travel for one particular reason. Your cruise can change at any time, either before you book it, once you get on board the ship, and even after the ship is underway. We call it going with the flow. And you really have to be able to go with the flow to become a successful cruiser, understanding that things can change without notice and being able to accept those changes and roll with it. For example, there could be bad weather at the port. There could be even things like unrest at the port. There could be mechanical issues with the ship. Or as happened with the Royal Caribbean Mariner of the Seas recently, they had a medical emergency on board that completely disrupted the entire cruise. So on a Monday evening, the Mariner of the Seas leaves Port Canaveral as scheduled and starts its journey to Haiti to go to the Royal Caribbean Resort in Labadee. But in the early morning hours of Tuesday, there was a medical emergency on board and the person had to be transferred off the ship. Now, in coordination with the U.S. Coast Guard, the Mariner was instructed to divert south towards Fort Lauderdale, where she met up with a U.S. Coast Guard boat just outside of Port Everglades, and they were able to transfer the person onto that boat. They do that often because it's easier for a ship to pull up outside of port rather than going all the way in, doing the docking procedures and all of that. It's much faster to just simply transfer the person to another boat and then let them go. Now, if it's a critical medical emergency, they will fly in the helicopters and get that person right off the ship. But in this case, it was deemed okay to just simply divert the ship and move that person off by transferring them to the boat. Now, in doing so, you can see that the Mariner was completely diverted off course. The dotted line up here shows where it was supposed to be going down towards Haiti, but in the time that it took to make the diversion to Fort Lauderdale, the entire itinerary got screwed up. Now, the Mariner could have still made it to Haiti by its scheduled stop on Wednesday, but it would have been much later in the day. So the guests would not have gotten a full day at the resort and on the beach. So Royal Caribbean made a decision to change the itinerary to give the guests a full day at a resort. So instead of going all the way to Haiti on Wednesday, they went to their private resort at Coco Cay instead. Then they had a sea day on Thursday and back to Coco Cay for their regularly scheduled visit on Friday. So everybody on board still got the sea days that they were supposed to. They still got 2 port visits. It just happened to be 2 visits to the same port. Honestly, I don't have a problem with that because I would have spent the whole day at the water park on one day and I would have spent the whole day at the Coco Beach Club the second day. 2 days at Coco Cay, not that big of a problem. And I'm sure the question you're thinking of right now is, well, did everybody on board get compensation? I mean, they paid for one cruise, they got a different cruise, it's similar, but it's still a different cruise. They didn't get to go to one of the stops. In general, no, because the cruise line has a very, very long contract. In fact, this is the one from Carnival Cruise Line. It's about 20 pages long. And here in section 8 is the most important part. The cruise line can change the itinerary at any time for any reason, and you are not due any compensation if the cruise is changed. Now, the one exception to that is if your cruise gets shortened for any reason, yes, you will be compensated for the days that you did not get to cruise. But the only compensation you really get is the port fees get returned. And if you booked any excursion through the cruise line, those will automatically be refunded if you don't go to the port. But your cruise can literally change at any given time. So if you're the kind of person that your vacation is going to be completely ruined because you didn't get to go to Grand Cayman and swim with the stingrays, because look, Grand Cayman is on the itinerary, then your best bet is to fly to Grand Cayman and go swim with the stingray, because there is no absolute guarantee that any cruise ship will make any of the port stop that it is scheduled to make. Oftentimes, circumstances are beyond their control, such as this medical emergency on the Mariner of the Seas. You have to take care of the patient. They coordinated with the U.S. Coast Guard, and this is the plan that the Coast Guard came up with, and that's what the Mariner of the Seas was required to do. Passengers still got their 5-night cruise. It was just a slightly different cruise than the one they originally booked. So if you're going to be a successful cruiser, you need to have patience, you need to be able to improvise, and most of all, you need to be able to go with the flow. And if things change on your itinerary, if you go to different ports or you miss ports, well, that's just more ship time, or you get to explore some areas you didn't really know you were going to go see. So I hope that tip was helpful for you. Hey, if we're bringing you some value in your cruise research, please consider subscribing to the channel. And thank you so much for your support.